Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Pickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation today will be delivered by Bishop Ontario Jones from the Church at Philadelphia. Thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we come now, first of all, just to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to see another day that wasn't promised to us. And Father, as we have gathered even here this morning, we thank you for all of our commissioners, all of our city workers. And I pray, Father, that the spirit of unity will continue to flow in our city. We lift up the city of Fort Worth to you right now in the name of Jesus. We love you, God, and we thank you for what you're getting ready to do. Spirit of the living God, continue to keep us as a family, as a city, as we continue to do kingdom work. We thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop.
Agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements. One, as it relates to this agenda, as soon as we approve the minutes, rather than going into the proclamation, resolutions, and presentations, we're going to move to the administrator section under item A3. This is the Texas General Land Office and the Texas Veterans Land Board. This is a historic occasion for a partnership between the county and the state, and we thought that we might want to do that presentation with the people that are in the audience to participate in that. Also, just a couple of upcoming agenda issues. Next week, we're going to have the JPS bond presentation. It's going to be a briefing. It should last about 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the progress that's been made, and Mr. Early will be here to address the court at that time, and we'll participate in that also, and we would hope that the court also would have some discussions as it relates to that. The week after that, which is the 20th, JPS is going to be bringing their proposed budgets for the court to review and to comment on. And then finally, tomorrow, the 7th at 3:30 p.m., PEBC has its meeting in Arlington. So with that, after you approve the minutes, we'll move forward with item 3.
Okay, court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of July the 30th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Before we get to this, I want to say a little bit about the events of this past weekend, the mass shootings, whether in El Paso or in Ohio, and the fact that I think we all stand throughout this country with those folks and are keeping them in our prayers. Last week, the county, Mary Louise County Clerk, had kind of said, okay, let's see about doing a blood drive, and this was before the events of the weekend. And we ended up with a mini blood drive yesterday that where we had over 49 donations. A couple of us had donated the prior week. We have another mini drive set up for August the 12th. And then we have our regular blood drive set up for August the 23rd. And we've got a slide that Susan prepared, and if we could bring that slide up, we're just going to keep that up there for a while. And we're going to keep it up there for a while because all of y'all have your little phones, and if you're of a mind and you think you might be able to donate, I would love for you to do what number 2 is. You can actually go online and schedule an appointment and go through that process while you're sitting here, while we're doing some of the business that we'll be doing. But blood was sent from here this past weekend to El Paso. And I know they had a number of people who donated out there, and we're seeing this pretty much throughout, hopefully throughout the country. But I would encourage you and hope that you will consider donating. If these links fill up, if our times fill up for the 12th and the 23rd, please see if you can't go by one of the Carter Blood Care locations within the county and make your gift at that point in time. And the other thing that I guess I would just say is, since then, there's been a lot of people blaming, first one thing and another. And as leaders, I think it's very important that we understand that words matter. And I think we have all been guilty, I know that I have, of taking a brush and very broadly painting groups of folks with that brush. And I think as leaders, we should make every effort to throw away the broad brushes and to get the very, very, very narrow ones and not try to paint groups with that broad brush. We've been doing that for all too long, and we all sometimes have a tendency to demonize, may be too strong of a word in some of the instances, but it's certainly not too strong a word in some of the things that we hear today, especially I think on the media, depending upon what station you may listen to. And I would hope that we begin to make an effort to have a civil dialogue about those things on which we may not totally agree. And if we can do that, then I think we can go a long way toward helping to not maybe encourage people who listen to us as leaders and believe that we may be saying something to them that we certainly did not mean or intend to say. So with that, I would like to call up the folks with the for our what I think is a super event for the court to be a part of today.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll have several individuals who make comments on this. If we could go to the County Administrator section, item 8A3. And let me start by asking you to consider this particular action. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve a donation agreement between Tarrant County and the Texas General Land Office on behalf of the Texas Veterans Land Board for Tarrant County to donate approximately 12 acres of land located at the Resource Connection, which will be used as a Texas Veterans Land Board operated skilled nursing facilities for the benefit of Texas veterans. Now, that's going to be the action that we're going to ask you to eventually take. I'm going to ask John Berkeley. He is the Deputy Director of the Texas State Veterans Homes for the Veterans Land Board to briefly talk about what the Veterans organization is going to build there. I think you also have a rendering at the dais. So first I ask John if you'll, there you are. You bet.
Thank you, everyone. For the record, my name is John Berkeley. I'm the Deputy Director for the Texas State Veterans Homes. Thank you so much for partnering with us and being able to provide this resource to the Texas veterans in your area. What we're looking to build is a 120-bed skilled nursing center. It will have 40 private rooms, 40 semi-private rooms. We'll have one wing that is dedicated to memory support, and that's Alzheimer's and related dementia. All of our veterans, or all of our staff, are trained in specific PTS training. Our program actually developed an award-winning PTS training to help the staff to understand what are the triggers that manifest certain resident behaviors so they can work with them and keep them safe. We have to reflect that our veterans, our population is primarily 90% male, And so that's why we have so many private rooms. And the way our semi-private rooms are going to be divided is they'll be toe-to-toe with a wall in between, so they still have their own separate space, full private shower and bath. In addition to the traditional therapies of physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech pathology, we really believe to enhance the resident experience, we bring in equine therapy. It's amazing the connection that residents will have with horses and how they can just relax and be comforted with them. We have service animals that come in. We do art therapy. We do music therapy. We do Tai Chi. But all of those things really geared to the specific residents we serve. The average semi-private room in our organization with the VA per diem is less than $50 per day, and that includes your medications. If you go out to any skilled nursing center in this area, you're going to be paying close to $150 a day, plus all other benefits or requirements you'll have to pay out of pocket. For those who are service-connected, 70% and above, cost of care is 100% free, and that includes therapy, medications, everything that veteran will need while they're staying in our homes. We're very excited to be able to bring this to Tarrant County. We have submitted our initial paperwork, and so we're in the process, as it's a year-long process, to continue to supply documents to the VA. We will expect to see the priority list from the VA come out at the end of this year. Usually it's between December and March, and I feel very strongly we'll be probably in the top 3, simply because we're looking to serve about 115,000 veterans over the age of 65 in this area. And with that, we will hopefully receive our award letter in August, and then hopefully next September we'll be moving dirt and working very hard to bring this service to the Tarrant County veterans and become a great resource for you all. May I ask any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
We're very excited about this opportunity.
Thank you all so much. This is going to be a great benefit. Right. I'd also like to introduce Hector Valier from our Commissioner's Office.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for letting us be here. My name is Hector Valle. I am the Senior Deputy Director of Communications and Government Relations for Commissioner George P. Bush. On his behalf, we'd like to say thank you for your generous donation and for your consideration in taking this action for the veterans of Texas. Texas has always been known to take care of its veterans, and like Commissioner George P. Bush says, it's not merely an option to take care of our veterans, but is our patriotic duty. So on behalf of Commissioner George P. Bush and the state of Texas, thank you so much. Couldn't think of a better city than Fort Worth and Tarrant County to have this there, especially being so close to the VA. It's going to be such a great nexus, and it's going to be such an amazing place for our veterans to come and say, you know, we have all of our services in one place. It's just an amazing place for it to be. So thank you again for having us and for considering this, and to your wonderful staff who has been amazing in this, between GK and David Phillips, amazing staff that you have here to get this project done. And so thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Commissioner for working so well with us here in Tarrant County to make this facility a reality. I am the liaison from this Commissioner's Court to the Resource Connection where this piece of ground is located. So when the community stakeholders brought this opportunity forward, it just seemed that the Resource Connection was the perfect place to locate this facility. Not only is there a Veterans Administration outpatient clinic located in proximity to this site, but all of the services that Tarrant County provides to people in need, our human services programs, our workforce development programs, medical programs, even the state's food stamp and other programs are co-located on this property. So the synergies are right for this particular project, and I won't be satisfied with being number 3 on that list. We want to be number 1 on that list because there is no other comparable site in the state of Texas to this one.
Yes, sir. And Commissioner Brooks, again, thank you again for all your help as well. And just so y'all know, we will be asking for more help as we go to the next step. And I think that's what John alluded to. The next step is Washington, D.C. and the VA. And we'll be coming to you for help as well to make sure that people don't forget that this should be number one in the country on priority list as far as the appropriations go.
We do Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
You know, Commissioner Brooks referenced the huge VA clinic. On that rendering that you see in the upper left-hand corner, that is the Veterans Clinic, and it is a very large one of the largest one in the region. So that would be great. I would like to also introduce just one other individual, Caleb Bennett. Caleb, if you just simply stand up. Caleb is going to be running point locally. He is the Deputy Director of Federal Relations for the Land Office, and so we'll be working with him also on this particular project. With that, members of the court, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the requested action.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask Commissioner Brooks also to, it kind of in keeping with what we just discussed.
Yes. In keeping with the services that you intend to include in this long-term care facility, my office annually holds an education seminar on Alzheimer's disease. That seminar is coming up on August the 17th. It will be held at the Trinity River campus of Tarrant County College, just right up the block here. Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia are becoming more and more prevalent in our society as our population ages. And we've got families out there trying to take care of loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's and other dementias, and they don't know where the services are. They don't know where to look for help, not only for their loved one, but for their families. So this will be our 4th annual Healthy Lives Matter. That's the umbrella under which I do my health programs. Our 4th annual Alzheimer's Education Seminar. It is free to the public. It includes breakfast, lunch, and a whole lot of information in between. Subjects such as what is Alzheimer's disease? What are the current treatment modalities? How do we address the legal and family issues associated with caring for a loved one? There is a demonstration called the Dementia Experience, where they can put these headphones on you and feed all these noises into the headphones that are disorienting and help approximate having dementia so that the caregiver can get an understanding of what their loved one is experiencing. And finally, there's the ability to participate in a research study that looks for biomarkers in people's blood that will help to develop not only an early diagnosis, but a treatment for Alzheimer's disease. Again, this will be on Saturday, August the 17th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Trinity River campus of Tarrant County College, and everything about this is absolutely free to the public.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Judge.
Back in April, Texas AgriLife came to us and asked us to approve the development or the creation of the J.D. Johnson Annual Youth Leadership and Service Award, and they're now back with the first recipient of that award, and I'm going to read this into the record, and then we'll proceed from there. Whereas in April 2019, the Tarrant County Commissioners Court approved the AgriLife Extension's request to establish the J.D. Johnson Annual Youth Leadership and Service Award, recognizing individuals who made choices preparing them for leadership and service. And whereas J.D. Johnson began his career in public service as a member of the City Council, then Mayor of Saginaw, and became Tarrant County Commissioner for Precinct 4 in 1987, giving him the distinction of the longest-serving commissioner in Tarrant County history. And whereas Commissioner Johnson is a highly respected leader, including a gubernatorial appointment to the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, being elected president of both the Texas Association of Counties and the County Judges and Commissioners Association of Texas. And whereas Commissioner Johnson supports 4-H FFA programs, the Fort Worth Stock Show Calf Scramble, North Texas High School Rodeo Association, and since 1984, and has led a buyer's pool to raise over $2 million for Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show. And whereas Max Morgan has been named the inaugural recipient of the J.D. Johnson Award for Community Service and Leadership, and is an active Keller 4-H Club member, serving as a guide, mentor, including club president. And whereas the majority of Max's service time is with the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol, serving on the Cadet Advisory Council, Flight and Drill Sergeant, Public Affairs Officer, and his current rank of Cadet Senior Master Sergeant. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, are pleased to recognize Max Morgan with the inaugural J.D. Johnson Award for Community Service and Leadership, in witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed the 6th day of August 2019. I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The motion passes unanimously. Max, where are you? Come on forward and go ahead and come up here. Commissioner Johnson kind of present that to you. I think that's appropriate.
Let's get some pictures.
Oh, yeah. It'll flash at least 3 times or it's not worth anything.
It's not worth anything because it has to flex. Come up here. You can get as close as you
I
want.
think that's that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Have you got the picture or are you taking a video?
Video.
All right. You got to tell us these things. I mean, we're a little slow on the uptake.
Congratulations to us. We worked together a lot. Yes, sir.
Go down there and make any comments you'd like to make, and then if you'd like to come over here and get a picture, no, you can come right through the circle here if you want to.
Well, I would like to say it is a huge honor to receive this. I have spent many hours volunteering, but it wasn't for any award or any recognition. I just did it because I wanted to do it. It's changed a lot in my life, how I look at other people and how I view doing certain things. it's not always about receiving something in return, but most of the time it's about giving to others. One thing I really wanted to make note of was one of the coolest places I've ever gotten to volunteer at was with an organization called Roll Call. They set up a veterans luncheon for about 300 veterans now. And it's the coolest thing to go and serve those guys. They have the craziest stories. If you listen to some of them, they're tears in their eyes as they're telling you these stories of what they've been through, things we can't even imagine, and seeing some of their brothers fall in the face of battle. And it's an honor to go and serve those men, the men that I want to be someday. So thank you.
This is probably as good a time as any to also recognize that in addition to the many years you've been on this commissioner's court, this marks the anniversary of your being on this earth. It's his birthday. So again, congratulations. We've got I guess a cake out there for you. We've had plenty of cake here the last couple of days. But again, congratulations and thank you for everything you have done, especially this award that we just presented is well named for all of the work I know you've done with 4-H, with FFA, with all of just working with kids. I mean, that's been your passion. I know long before I came to this court, but I've certainly seen it and experienced it since I've had an opportunity to be here. So thank you very much.
Judge Whitley, we were going to put candles on the cake, but the fire marshal said that we really shouldn't do that.
Burn the building down?
Thank you, GK.
Commissioner Allen, I believe you have a proclamation.
I do. I'm especially excited to present this proclamation recognizing International Clown Week. And I know you all will be wondering, yes, I know you all will be wondering why clowns. So I'll share a little story with you all. Some years back, I participated several years in a row in the parade that benefited Dallas Children's Hospital. And so every year you have thousands of folks that come out there and families who either their children have been patients or a relative, or maybe they're caregivers, or perhaps they're even healthcare providers. So it's a really great celebratory event, but it's also a fundraiser. And so every year that I would participate, there would be a group of clowns out there, and I don't know that they all came from the same alley, and I'll explain what an alley is in a second. But it just impressed me that, given the severity of, or really the seriousness of why we were there to raise money for children who they or their families who were enduring medical issues, that when the clowns came around, they really brightened everyone's faces. And I met a clown, and I can't remember her name, but she was a physician at the Children's Hospital. And I just, I'm a curious person. You all know that. Ask a lot of questions. And so I asked her what organization had she gone through to establish herself as a clown. And she told me about Happy Times Alley in Arlington, who one of the main organizers of that organization is Miss Cookie Warren, and she's joined us here today. So although I've never gone through clown training, I remain connected to the group in the hopes that one day, perhaps that I will be able to thank them for their service. And they do so much throughout the community. So previously I'd mentioned what an alley is. It's what they refer to when clowns all gather at one place. They meet once a month to share community news, events, and they have programs for continuing education. There's Happy Times Alley in Arlington. They meet at Coker's. They were formed 23 years ago. The Cowtown Alley in Hearst, they formed 39 years ago. the Mid-Cities Alley in Irving, they formed 20 years ago. They spend a tremendous amount of their time at nursing homes, at Mission Arlington, at the 4th of July parade, specifically in Arlington. They go to local fire departments. Several of them are caring clowns who go to JPS, of course, our hospital here in Fort Worth, to raise the ailing spirits and lighten the hearts of staff and doctors. They also go to back-to-school events, churches, cancer care events. They help to celebrate Down Syndrome Day and the Baylor Transplant Reunion. That's just to name a short list. So as I read this resolution into the record, as Ms. Cookie likes to say, the world is a better place when there is a clown around. So let's bring down the clown. So if you all go ahead and join me at the podium, I'm going to read this into the record and then present this proclamation to you. Whereas the first known clowns date back thousands of years, and the first painted white-faced clowns were originally introduced in 1801 by Joseph Grimaldi, who is credited as an inventor of modern clowns, which are called Joey. Whereas there are many types of clowns, including medical clowns and others that parody different characters. And medical clowns specifically bring healing and well-being to a wide variety of patients, and the healing power is supported by a host of medical studies conducted over the last decade by researchers in both the U.S., thank you, and abroad. And whereas clowns have a heart for giving, and they regularly visit and support charitable and service organizations, children's hospitals, schools, senior centers, and more. And whereas no matter the type of clown being portrayed, they bring light to people of every age with their performances, physical humor, faces, and colorful, extravagant clothes and hair. Whereas those who don their clown persona have a knack of spreading joy that is evident in their work to lift the spirits, spread happiness, and bring smiles to the faces of the audience. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim the week of August 1st International Clown Week in Tarrant County and express our appreciation for the joy that they uniquely bring to the world. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 6th day of August 2019. And with that, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the short clown on the back needs to move to the front. So you gotta have 3 flashes, or y'all won't get out of there until she has 3 flashes.
Thank you. I would like to present you with this balloon shoe. You show that anywhere you go, you will be automatically accepted.
Now, I did forget to recognize the clowns by name. We had Miss Martha Warren, or Miss Cookie, if you'll just raise your hand. And then we have John Lucy. Great. And then we have LJ Wiggles, Aaron's Lomanek. So Miss Wiggles. We have Dr. Airhead and Karen. Yes. Very good. And what's your clown name?
Bubbles.
Bubbles. There we go. Okay, great. Awesome.
Now for, again, one of my favorite times of the month, and that's employee recognition. Just a little bit of the routine for those who've been here before, but for those of you who are new, here's kind of the way it works. We do it by categories, 5 years, 10 years, so forth. I call your name. This is where it's of great joy to all the people up here because they make fun of the way I pronounce names. So what I just simply say to the group, you know where you are alphabetically. If it doesn't sound like your name, but you know that's where you're supposed to be, stand up. And we can go from there. And then after we get finished with, and stay standing for as long as your group, I'm calling your group, and then at the end of that, we'll thank you, and then we'll proceed on to the next group. So we're going to start off with our 5-year employees. Ryan Cazell, Sheriff's Office. Vilka Clayton, Sheriff's Office. Manzel Dawson, Sheriff's Office. Paul Deviney, Information Technology. Scott Hadley, Sheriff's Office. Christopher Hardy, Sheriff's Office. Sandra Hunter Contreras, Public Health. Yeah, I didn't do too well on that one. Bridget Kennedy, Human Services. Sharon Kindles, Sheriff's Office. That's not her coming in back there, by the way. Kimberly Knott, Information Technology. Billy Odell, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Shay Parker, District Clerk. Shelby Hadraza, Juvenile Services. Rachel Pointer, Sheriff's Office. Deborah Santella, Sheriff's Office. Good, she can't correct me. Sharon Stroke, District Clerk. Judy Terrazas, Tax Office. These are our 5-year employees. Thank you. Now for our 10-year employees. Catherine Adler, Public Health. Colton Douglas, Sheriff's Office. Cameron Hernandez, Sheriff's Office. Barushana Hill, Medical Examiner. Kathleen Pignatelli, Public Health. Timothy Tremaine, Sheriff's Office. Brian Wallace, Sheriff's Office. Casey White, Sheriff's Office. Tracy Williams, Sheriff's Office. These are our 10-year employees. Now for our 15-year employees, William Allen, Information Technology. Brought your own little cheering section here with you. Ricky Dominguez, Sheriff's Office. Kristen Harmison, Tax Office. Eric Remington, Juvenile Services. Anna Salazar, Facilities Management. Gregory Smith, Sheriff's Office. Joseph Sarzek, Sheriff's Office. Charlotte Toner, Criminal District Court Number 2. These are our 15-year employees. Now for our 20-year employees, Rachel Byrne, County Auditor. Deanne Kahn, Information Technology. Joel Garcia, Sheriff's Office. Maria Guardian, Public Health. Sean Layfield, Sheriff's Office. Julia Murphy, Sheriff's Office. DeCarla Ori, Sheriff's Office? Okay, you want to help? Did I mess that up too bad? Good. I got one right. Hun Rocco, County Clerk. Jan, she's off yonder. Justin Wooten, Sheriff's Office. Now, Ange, don't just sit there and cringe when I do something like that. I know that that's... When you do that and I see it, then I just have to, kind of call you out and just... These are our 20-year employees. Now for our 25 plus, I have an opportunity to sit and to call them, and most of the time I call them over the weekend. I came in this weekend, couldn't get in my computer. It wasn't IT's problem. I screwed it up, got locked out, just figured I knew that we would have more time, and there was a short list this month. But anyway, I talked to most of these people yesterday or this morning. First on the list is Renee Rice with the Sheriff's Office, 25 years. Now, she started off as a clerk and became a detention officer and continued to attend school to become a deputy sheriff. So she was working the evening shift, and then would go to school part-time in the mornings. And I believe you had a daughter, a son. So all of this she's doing and with the balancing act. In 1998, she worked in the background as a background investigator and as a recruiter. She then worked for Judge Mills from 2001 to 2008. Then went to the crime scene unit as an investigator. And then in 2011, she returned to judicial services and is currently assigned to the juvenile area out on Kimbo Road. When I asked her about the memorable moments, she said she remembers when she started in Belknap, which is kind of referred to as the Thunderdome. She remembers walking in there and how loud it was and how she's thinking, whoa, because she's in there with all the folks that aren't necessarily nice sometimes. But to take that full circle, when she was in the recruiting area, her and the other person that she was working with, as they would recruit people and they'd bring them in, and they decided that maybe what they needed to do is before they did all the training, maybe they needed to do a tour to walk them through the jail. And she said it was amazing the number of people who would do that tour and then decide, yeah, maybe not. And she says, I remember one very distinctly that didn't like elevators. And so the moment we went through the tour and we're going to have to get on the elevator, she said, that's it. But just think of the ingenuity, just think of thinking about that and how much that saved the county, because then those folks didn't go all the way through the training and then realize that maybe they didn't like the elevators, maybe they didn't like the smell, maybe they didn't like finding themselves in the middle of 24 or 48 prisoners right in amongst of them, because we also did and I've lost the word now, but there's a word where you basically are in amongst them.
Direct supervision.
Direct supervision. That's the two words that I was looking for. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was the people and the experiences that she's had an opportunity to be with, and then with the benefits. Renee, we appreciate very much your 25 years of service to the county. Thank you. Next is Todd Timon with Constable Precinct 1. There's Todd. Started off in Precinct 6 with Joe Cubes, and then worked for Zane for about 6 years out at Precinct 3, and then went over to Precinct 1 where he is right now. He said, I have absolutely loved the people that I've had a chance to work with over the years. He said he particularly likes the way that the county treats its people and works with them. He said, I love the benefits, love the retirement that we offer. Todd, we appreciate very much the 25 years of service you've given to us. Next is Wayman Ward with the Sheriff's Department. Actually, it's 28 years. And, you know, it's another one of these screwy things that I told somebody this morning, I've been here for 22 years, I still don't understand that. But anyway, he started in 1988, left, came back, and he was a cook in the kitchen. And he had been a cook in the Air Force. And then in 1990, he moved over as a jailer. In 97, when he came back to the county, he came back in 97, was promoted to corporal in 2000, to sergeant in 2006, and he's now on the first watch over at Green Bay. When I asked him about memorable moments, he said, you know, in being a cook, every once in a while they would read the food page in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and I'm sure that it was by Bud Kennedy because he's great at food. And then they would try to cook something that they'd found on maybe the food page for the officers in the jail. And he said, I enjoyed that. They loved it, and it was just a great experience from that standpoint. He said he remembers in 1994, it was 94 or 95, that I think you were still in the cooking area, and some of the folks in the jail got a little angry and started kicking on doors. And he said the doors would, they'd be red if everything was okay, or I may have this backwards, but they were red. They were green if everything was okay, and then red if they weren't. And he said they were kicking on the doors, and those lights were turning red, green, and he said he said Christmas crossed my mind, but that wasn't what he was worried about at that point in time. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was the folks that he'd had a chance to work with. He said, really in solving a problem, solving problems for the inmates. Again, one of the important things to remember about a lot of the folks that are in that jail is innocent until proven guilty. And he said he came across one guy who had just kind of fallen through the cracks. He'd been in the jail for a very long time, and I'm sure this was many, many sheriffs ago. But he helped him, and he was able to kind of get things back on track and run it. And those are the kind of folks that I think we have exemplified here today, but exemplified throughout Tarrant County. Regardless of where they are, regardless of what is bringing them to have the interaction with employees, they treat them with respect and with professionalism, and for that we are very, very thankful. Wayman, thank you very, very much for your 25 years of service. Y'all can sit down. The last two that we have, one is Donna Allen from County Criminal Court number 8, and Donna was not going to be able to make it here today, but I want you to, if you see her, if you have an opportunity to talk with her, give her a call and tell her how much we appreciate the 30 years of service that she's given. And I think she may be another one of those that actually has 32 years of service with the county. And then the last one is Bridget Wilson, and she's been out on medical leave, which is probably violated HIPAA and everything else from that standpoint. But she's also been in the criminal courts area for 30 years, and hopefully maybe we'll see if we can't bring her back and when she has a chance to come back on details. So, total of 610 years. We're very, very pleased and proud to be able to recognize you. We appreciate you very much. We appreciate the way you conduct your business day in and day out. You are what makes Tarrant County a great place to live and to work and to raise a family. And I want to thank you very, very much for that. I hope I'm just going to, in closing, do what I started out, remind you that we've got a blood drive coming. If you have an opportunity to give, I hope you will take that opportunity and give, because there's a lot of folks, not only within this area, but really around the state and around the country right now that are in need of that blood donation. We got refreshments back in 504C. Again, thank you very, very much. And I'll move that we receive and file the employee recognition. Motion is second by Commissioner Johnson. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Wilder takes the shortcut.
I know. He heads out.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, the person all political.
Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion to second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, we have two additional items for you this morning. This is in conjunction with setting the budgets and all the activities that will eventually accumulate on September 10th when we passed the budget and the effective tax rate, or our tax rate for the next year. So on item 1, we're going to ask that we have 2 different motions. First of all, we're going to request that the Commissioners Court receive and file the proposed effective and rollback tax rate information for Tarrant County government. If you look on your court communication, it lists what those particular rates are. We're asking that you receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
One question that I have about that is, if we do this, well, we've got the proposed tax rate, does that prevent us from eventually adopting a rate below that?
No, it does not.
Okay,
Does
so
not.
it still leaves that door open should we choose to.
That's correct, and we are simply receiving and filing this. We are not asking your approval.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Now we're asking that the Commissioners Court call for public hearings on August 20th, 2019 and September 3rd, 2019 at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners Courtroom.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? So for the agenda purposes, we don't have that broken out. I mean, how are y'all?
For the agenda, as far as M&O and debt service?
No. I'm looking at item 1.
Okay.
And maybe I'm just missing it.
Yeah,
Okay, and call public hearing. So we just did that in the form of 2 motions as opposed to just 1.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so we have a motion to call the public hearing.
And second. So please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
On item number 2, we're going to do, this is for the hospital district, and you can probably tell that it's different than the counties, and that's because we operate under 2 different statutes. So the first action that we're going to ask is that the Commissioners Court receive and file the proposed effective and rollback tax rates for the Tarrant County Hospital District as shown in your court communication.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Here is where it's somewhat different than what you did on the county. We're going to ask the Commissioners Court to propose a tax rate of 0.224429, which is the current tax rate for tax year 2019, and take a record vote. This will put the ceiling on. You can always lower that tax rate.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Read that number again.
0.224429 per $100 valuation, which is the current tax rate.
Okay.
And you said we could always lower it.
Absolutely. You're setting the ceilings.
Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then finally, members of the court, we're asking that you call a public hearing for the hospital district's tax purposes for August 20th, 2019 and September 3rd, 2019 at 10 a.m. in the Commissioner's Courtroom.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell.
We have one item we're asking the court to consider this morning, and that is to receive and file the auditor's report related to the review of financial and system controls for Justice of the Peace Precinct 5, and you have his response attached.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
We have 2 additional items. Both are waivers. The first is a waiver for the district clerk's office. This is actually 2 requests that are rolled into one. The district clerk is requesting a waiver, again, for 2 positions. The first is effective August 10th, second September 3rd. We are estimating a net cost to the general fund of approximately $23,400 and some change, and that does include fringe benefits.
That's a lot.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask of the, this is not a position where we can, this is kind of the tail end. Next year in our budget, we've put in there some attrition, and I think it's going to be even more critical that we try to not have to ask for waiver of terminal benefits. But I think in this situation, what's the?
Well, with the 20% turnover each of the last 3 years and the monster increase in caseload, we just have no other choice. One of these is a floor supervisor in criminal, which is where the largest case increase is, and the other one is a lead clerk, which we are losing right and left. I do not send the 15s, which is about a third of our workforce, up here. We burn that time off. But a lead clerk or above, it's just not feasible to sit there and burn off the time. And we've had to restrict vacations somewhat. And, it's just the way it is. We've got a documented turnover rate that is just huge. And we have the 12,000 case increase in 2 years.
Okay, and then hopefully next year with the reclasses, that will help a little bit with that process.
If it doesn't, we're in a world of hurt.
Second. We have motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then our final item again is a waiver, this time for the medical examiner's office. Dr. Pirwani is requesting a waiver of 344 hours effective August 12th at a net cost to the general fund of approximately $14,100 and some change, again, including fringe benefits. As noted in your communique, this request is related to the resignation of a forensic death investigator. That individual left at the end of July. Investigations does require staffing 24/7. The medical examiner reports very high call volume, and that any delay in hiring would result in overtime costs.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. We have 7 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2019-110, signing a contract for inmate food trays. Recommendation be to award on a per-enterprise basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 2, bid award recommendation for bid 2019-112. This is a contract for lamps, ballast, and electrical supplies. Recommendation be to award on a per-enterprise basis, discount off list price, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors meeting all specifications.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 3, bid award recommendation for RFP 2019-156. This is an RFP for professional services to prepare a central services cost allocation plan for the county administrator's office. Recommendation be toward MGT of America Consulting, amount of $21,950.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4, also a bid award recommendation for bid 2019-178, signing a contract for structured cabling materials and services for information technology. Recommendation be to award per the terms of the contract, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in the court communique, meeting all specifications.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5, bid award recommendation for bid 2019-193, signing a contract for inmate uniforms. Recommendation be to award on a per enterprise basis, discount off list price, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors meeting all specifications as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 6, Bid award recommendation for bid 2019-221, sale of recycled paper. Recommendation would be towards the high bidder, Texas Recycling. On a per unit price basis, they're willing to purchase our cardboard for $12 a ton, sorted office paper, $127.50, ledger paper, $267.50, and magazines and newsprint at $10 a ton.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Last item is item in regards to bid 2019-141. This is a housekeeping item. This was approved in court June 25th, 2019, Court Order 130494. A couple of weeks later, we got a request from primary award company Gulfstar Supply asking that they not be willing, secondary award, asking they be relieved of that obligation. We're replacing them. We're asking the court to rescind that original order, replacing one item, and there's a name change also involved.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any appointments today? None.
Any comments on that?
Then we will, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mays.
Your Honor, as we discussed yesterday, this is going to be a standing item. I believe what we're going to be doing now for the rest of this week and the first part of next week, budget will be working with various departments, and we'll be start to bring back a list for your consideration. It may not be next week, but within the next few weeks.
I want to just say that I appreciate everybody's participation yesterday in the budget process. I know it was a long day. I guess what I would also just, I thought more and more about it, or I continued to think about it last night. And really, it's a little bit of a dilemma from my perspective. I said throughout the legislative session that I opposed the controls that the legislature was attempting to put on us, and then eventually did put upon us. I do not believe that local entities are overspending. I think they look at what they feel like they need and they request that. And we heard many of those requests yesterday. Unfortunately, the legislature did say that they did and continue to feel like that we're overspending, and they want us to curb that back. And so while I don't necessarily agree with that, I think we are the arm of government that's going to have to try to implement what the state has said they're going to pass upon us. And in that process, we're not required to do that this next year, but we are required the year after that. And again, at least from my position, I feel like that we need to begin to move toward that in this next year. And so we didn't, at least from my perspective, I did not support certain requests by folks. And as we go forward, it's going to, we had an 11% increase in property values. So I'm not also ruling out the possibility of reducing the tax rate a little bit, which I know is, again, kind of flies in the face of what we're saying as far as not granting things that I might have supported had it truly been left up to local control to look at that. And I guess I just say all that to say that I think we've still got some tough decisions ahead of us, and I think we're going to have to talk about that. But I don't want to rule out the possibility of some reduction in our property taxes. And I don't want everybody that was up here yesterday and felt like to feel like, oh, wait a minute, he's going to open this up and we may be cut even more. At least my feeling at this time, and that it's not set in stone or anything, it's just a consideration that I'm continuing to think about as we move forward, is such that if we were to reduce the tax rate, we have increased our reserves, and we might be able to reduce a little bit of that increase in reserves to help with the possible reduction somewhat in tax rate. Because I still do hear, and I know that others up here have heard, boy, our property taxes are really hurting us and are really going up. So it's a dilemma. And as I had said previously, I was certainly in favor of considering early adoption. As I looked through the budget that was presented yesterday and the requests that were presented, I do not, I am moving away from feeling like that would be appropriate. But at the same time, I think we've got to make some step in the direction of beginning to understand the restrictions that the legislature has placed on us. And I'm still not happy about those restrictions, and will make that well known to every legislator who I speak with, as well as most groups that I get in front of to speak. So that's just my comment. I don't know if there's others, but
I also agree that we are not overspenders. I chafe at the restrictions that the state has put on us in terms of our ability to manage our business as a county on behalf of the people who elected us to manage that business. I especially find it distasteful that the legislature saw fit to impose a cap on the revenues that we are able to generate, but did not see fit to put a cap on its demands that we perform additional services. We call those unfunded mandates. They continue to ask us to do more and more and more with less and less and less. And there will come a time when we are unable to perform those services. And as I said yesterday, we will get to the point of not only cutting meat, but cutting the bone. And that day is coming. We will have a recession. We will have a period of time when we don't have an 11% growth. We may be down to 0 growth or 1% growth. In that scenario, we're looking at layoffs. We're looking at cuts in vital services on which our residents depend to just get through life. Our legislature has made a mistake. That's a kind way to put it. They have made a mistake. And we are the ones who are going to have to live with the repercussions of that mistake going forward. I too am not opposed to cutting the tax rate just a smidge, just to show our good faith.
Commissioner?
I agree concerning the tax rate. It's kind of hard to look at 11% increase and not consider lowering the tax rate. But back to the bigger issue of what the state has done, I find it difficult to accept the fact that they want us to maintain this 3.5% cap when they themselves, their budget in Austin
this past year was, depending on how you calculate it, somewhere between 12 and 15% over the biennium before. And they thought that was just fine. They could have reduced taxes. It would have been sales taxes, which they don't want to ever have to do, I'm sure. But they made no attempt to help the people. They didn't give anybody a tax cut by putting in a 3.5% cap on cities and counties and 2.5% on school districts. So nobody got a tax cut on that. It's all rhetoric.
If nothing else, we have a couple of public audience participation forms. Charles Hines, I believe, is the first one. You're familiar with the drill, I think. 3 minutes is what you have.
I'm Charles Hines, 703.
I hope you don't call me a racist again, like you did the last time you were here. Thank you, and you're welcome to be here. But
thank you.
We have the form.
Okay. I'd like to start by quoting from that form. If you go to the last 2 pages, this is alleged evidence that Sheriff Bill Wayborn had somebody online impersonating him. Howdy, y'all. I'm Thief Bill Wayborn. I used to be police chief for Worthington Gardens, but after a few hiccups, I had to retire. You probably already know how I shot myself in the hand teaching a CHL class, then covered it up. Then lied about it happening in the line of duty so I could get the taxpayers to foot the bill for my medical expenses. And the bottom line is I stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from resources from DWG taxpayers in an unauthorized scheme to provide security for Taya in hopes that ingratiating myself with her would lead to her helping me seek higher office. Because of this scheme, I'm proud to announce I am Thief Bill Wayborn. And even when I was doing it, I knew it was wrong. I'm Thief Bill Wayborn. I hope the hat hasn't confused anybody. I am not Thief Bill Wayborn, nor am I doing anything illegal by using his name in this context. As a matter of fact, First Amendment allows people the right to political satire. However, Texas Penal Code 3903 states it is a Class A misdemeanor to seek warrants like the one before you. A Class A misdemeanor, well, we've been talking all this time about how Thief Bill Wayborn believes that a Class B misdemeanor means that someone has no place here in Tarrant County. Evidence right here of a Class A misdemeanor. It's also interesting if you take a note at where the search warrant was. It was a search warrant signed by a city judge and bizarrely an Arlington city judge for California. But according to the bench book from Texas Municipal Courts Education Center, a municipal judge signing a search warrant in his or her capacity as a magistrate must have geographic authority over the area to be searched. Thus, an Austin municipal judge lacks the authority to issue a search warrant for a property located in the city of El Paso. Clearly, even where this location is problematic. This is a clear violation of Texas Code 3903. But that was 2016. Moved to 2018. According to the Hatch Act, it is illegal to use county resources to campaign for a candidate. Yet, Bill Wayborn has used county resources, as a matter of fact, there's a few good articles about this, campaigning for Ted Cruz during the 2018 campaign. That's the second time now in the last couple of years that he's violated the law more than once. Also, Class A misdemeanor. Repeat offender. There's another case we can also talk about. This last June, you realize the special sauce we keep talking about is that we have a sheriff with no integrity. Other counties with better sheriffs have told us it costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain a 287G agreement. I brought along a pair for Sheriff Bill Wayborn, his co-conspirators who continue to fund this defrauding of Tarrant County taxpayers. Also, we'll have a date of birthday.
Your time's up. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all we have at this time.
There were a couple of other people who had turned in forms, but they said they did not wish to speak. Eddie Lou Mayfield, as well as Elva Mosier. And they both said they were against 287. One said it was against 287G, and the other mentioned the 287G in the budget. Again, we're unable to speak about this since it was not an item on our agenda for today. With that, I will recess our open meeting, proceed to close to discuss items exempt under section 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. Having returned from our closed session, there being no business to conduct at this time, we stand adjourned.